A very good evening to you and welcome to RTV News with me, Fiona Mbabazi. President Paul KAGAME has announced that COVID-19 pandemic has once again exposed the double standards and hypocrisy that consistently is applied to Africa. The head of state said these are the World Policy Conference taking place in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. This evening in Abu Dhabi, President Paul KAGAME joined Thierry de Montbrial, founder of the World Policy Conference, for a dinner debate during the 14th edition of the annual conference. In his speech, the head of state said that in the last 2 years, the world was affected greatly due to COVID-19 pandemic, which exposed weaknesses in both the national and global systems that have been there all along, that included insufficiencies in both public health and governance.
Despite obstacles. For example, COVAX was supposed to be a solution to assist low-income countries to get access to vaccines and therapies. But COVAX could not compete with the wealthy countries for supply. And we saw examples of hoarding. In actual fact, the rich countries are the ones who were offering vaccine doses through COVAX. To add insult to injury, we now see some travel restrictions based on where people were vaccinated, even though the vaccines themselves are exactly the same. So we have now an issue of where you were vaccinated, while something else that is about to come or is slowly coming is what type of vaccine.
Despite this, President Paul KAGAME said that Africa seems to be getting out of the vicious circle as the vaccines are becoming available through programs such as COVAX, foreign donations and purchases, giving an example of how far Rwanda has come to vaccinate her people.
Despite this, there is progress. Access to vaccines has begun to increase, both through donations and doses we purchase for ourselves. In Rwanda, we have administered more than 2 million doses, and 90% of residents of cities, especially the capital, Kigali, has received a dose. We see also cooperating with various commercial and development partners to launch an ambitious program to manufacture vaccines and other pharmaceuticals for the African market beginning next year. So even though things could have been better, we do appreciate the good cooperation that has been there.
President KAGAME also noted that although globally efforts are made to fight the pandemic and its impact, it does not prevent superpowers and international leaders from continuing to put pressure on African countries and their leadership, and all in the name of democracy and human rights. Adding that this does not mean that Africa does not have its own problems, including insecurity, governance, but the biggest challenge being the double standards and hypocrisy that consistently applied to Africa. President KAGAME mentioned the results of the partnerships between Africans themselves, stressing that the achievements of the Rwandan armed forces, which joined Mozambican forces in the fight against terrorism in Cabo Delgado, speak volumes on its own.
Like in the case of Mozambique, we were asked by the Mozambican leaders or government for a problem that had been there for about 4 years. The place in the northeastern part of the country, a province called Cabo Delgado, is 3 times, just a province, is 3 times the size of my country. It had been taken over by these terrorists. Of course, for that to reach that point, they must have exploited certain weaknesses. And one of them is lack of cooperation, because even from the beginning, what the Mozambicans didn't have, maybe a neighbor or a region in which they find themselves should have helped. But it came to that point, so they asked and we helped, and the region, the SADC, the Southern African region, is also helping, or beginning to help. And I'm told we are at a point where even European Union is about help in terms of training their troops, and so that they should be able to stand on their own and prevent terrorists taking over territories again, or having to need a friend or a neighbor to come and help with your problem. So that's the stage where it is. It's the same process in the Central African Republic.
Well, thank you very much.
President Kagame on Friday also met with His Highness Sheikh Hazard bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Deputy Chairperson of the Abu Dhabi Executive Council and Chairperson of the Board of the Emirates Identity Authority, for discussion on bilateral cooperation. In Abu Dhabi, President Paul Kagame also met with His Excellency Kediam Abdullah Said Faris Al Dairia, co-founder, vice chairman and CEO of Al Dahara Holdings LLC, to discuss various investment opportunities. President Paul Kagame has been in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates since Thursday, where he attended the World Policy Conference. The 40th edition of the World Policy Conference was held by Dr. Thierry de Montbrial, the executive chairman of the French Institute of International Relations, which he founded in 1979.
Now, experts in politics and Rwandans of all walks of life believe that patriotism is a value that Rwandans should uphold, because it is the real foundation for building a better country for everyone and sustainable development. They made these remarks today on the 1st of October, which of course is the day to celebrate Patriotism Day. Jane Mutoni with more.
31 years ago, on October 1st, 1990, the RPF Inkotanyi forces made the final decision to launch a campaign to overthrow the dictatorship and racism that led to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Some veterans with disabilities related to the war of liberating the nation and those who lost their families during the genocide believe that it was patriotism and love for the nation that motivated them to sacrifice their lives to liberate those in the shackles of persecution. They also thank those that paid them a visit on this day. Not having a home country is painful because you're constantly at ease. Our primary goal, or our main motivation, was to make sure a person regains his or her rights of having a home, or a country he or she calls home. On Friday, a group of youth volunteers from Kichukiro district and genocide survivors from Niwoye sector organized a visit to the disabled veterans in the struggle to liberate the nation in appreciation of their contribution to the reconstruction of Rwanda. To this date, they say they are also committed to upholding the values of patriotism and continuing to preserve what has been achieved. As the youth, we have to first understand that we are the power of the nation, and as youth volunteers, we play our part to contribute to the country with the support of His Excellency. Thanks to him, he is our role model. Experts in politics and the chairperson of Rwanda Elders Advisory Forum, Honorable Tito Rutaremara, says that on October 1st, 1990 was the day the Inkotanyi launched what he called the Option Z, which means liberation of the country with the use of firearms. It was the beginning of the fight to liberate Rwanda and the end of the genocide against the Tutsi. He said what motivated them to do so was patriotism. He called on Rwandans to be patriotic. Today reminds us of how we came to the conclusion of Option Z and how we told the whole world that we are going to liberate our nation and overthrow the dictatorship at the time. What motivated us was the love for our nation, of which the price was life sacrifices in order to liberate her. We still need the spirit of patriotism, now even more, because we need to build our country in all aspects and develop, whereby a Rwandan does not wish to be an American or a Chinese, but instead operate in such a way that a Chinese wishes to be a Rwandan. After 30 years, people around the world have told the Rwanda Broadcasting Agency that they are happy that Rwanda is a country that puts the interests of people first and without discrimination. Patriotism has given Rwanda a new look and transformed the lives of the people in contrast to the past. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
To security matters now, the Rwanda National Police, in collaboration with the Rwanda Investigation Bureau, have arrested 13 people who were planning terrorism attacks on various infrastructures in the city of Kigali.
Rwandan security forces say they have arrested 13 people, including one woman, who were planning to damage various infrastructures in Kigali city. The Rwanda National Police, in collaboration with the Rwanda Investigation Bureau, arrested them on different dates. This Friday, they were presented to the media. They say the detainees had links to terrorist groups, and while they were arrested, they had various tools in possession, which they were to use when executing their plan, including wires, nails, mobile phones, explosives, and tutorials on how to use them. Some members of the group explained that they had planned to carry out the bombings in different parts of Kigali city and that they were collaborating or working hand in hand with other people from neighboring countries, including the Democratic Republic of Congo. We had planned to put an explosive in a box and then wrap it with the toilet paper and then place it in a fridge shop located in the Kigali City Tower. According to the National Police, a preliminary investigation in collaboration with RIB shows that the group is working with the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, terrorist group, working with ISIS on extremism, idealism, and how to detonate bombs. The spokesperson of the Rwanda National Police, CP John Bosco Kabera, says the police will not tolerate those who engage themselves in acts of terrorism. These people were arrested on different dates last month, and the investigation revealed that they were working with the ADF, a group affiliated with ISIS group. Citizens are required to provide information and understand that these elements of ethics are baseless. Terrorism cannot prevail. For whatever reason, this kind of act shouldn't be tolerated. RIB says some members of the group have been caught in the act and are currently being prosecuted for 7 crimes, including being in the terrorism group, engaging in and participating in acts of terrorism, forming a terrorism group or joining it, and other crimes. RIB spokesperson Dr. Murangira Thierry says those who engage in terrorist activities will not succeed because the security forces are vigilant. They were arrested at Kichukiro, where they were being taught how to use them. We told them that they won't achieve anything apart from the horrific consequences such as imprisonment. They cannot succeed because the police and security agencies are vigilant. We also thank the people for their role in providing information. Keep up the good work. The ADF group, which is said to be working with this group, is already operating in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in North Kivu province. According to the charges against them, the maximum sentence is 25 years in prison, while the minimum is 7 years in prison. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
Now, the Rwandan Armed Forces on a counter-terrorism mission in Cabo Delgado province in Mozambique say that the fact that they have already overcome 95% of the crisis does not mean that the war is easy, but that it shows that the Rwandan military's ability in the struggle. This comes even as the people of Cabo Delgado are also grateful for the achievements of the Rwandan Armed Forces in the short term. We do have the details.
In the village of Quilmen, on the main road from the city of Palma to Mokipoa da Paria, a 12-year-old Abdulrahman Halfan plays in the area with his classmates. The dream of the teenager, who claims to be a big fan of Manchester United in the UK, is to be a professional football player who has reached the level of other great players like Cristiano Ronaldo. Despite his dreams, Halfan says he cannot forget the danger he faced.
Those
animals Al-Shabaab chased us away, and they got to run away with most of my friends. They took them, they gave them guns, and now they are part of them. What happened to Halfan is a small example of what happened to the children and daughters or wives of Cabo Delgado. In Quintunda camp of Afongi is one of the few places where parents and children from Mokiboa, the Praia, who have had their loved ones killed or kidnapped by terrorists, and they do not know their fate yet. My 2 children are missing. This is the only child I'm left with, including those who are older. Now, I'm in a lot of tears. I'm very worried. My house was destroyed. 2 of my children had traveled. 2 were taken by Al-Shabaab. Now I'm left with only 1 child. We did not sleep or eat for days. All we did was just running and running all day and night. I lost 6 of my boys. Nearly 3 months after arriving in Cabo Delgado, the Rwandan army, in collaboration with their counterparts from Mozambique, have ousted terrorists in all areas of Palma and Mokibao da Praia, a situation that had failed in the past 5 years. Brigadier General Mohizi Pascal says the achievement of the Rwandan armed forces in cooperation with the Mozambican one in such a short time period does not mean that the struggle was easy for the Rwandan armed forces. If you are not a soldier or have not fought, then one cannot say or can't say what they like. But this war had been ongoing for almost 3 years, and even those who came before to help them could not contain the situation. To say it was easy is not the truth. It was not easy. Arriving in Cabo Delgado since July the 10th, the Rwandan army used 2 tricks, which included dividing themselves into 2. Some moved from Mueda to continue to Diaka Awase Mumu Mtotwe, to the mentorist stronghold in Mosimbo da Praia. Rwanda Defense Forces spokesperson Colonel Ronald Rwevanga says a major battle took place in Awase due to the existing power station. Awase is one of the main roads that leads to 3 other provinces, which are Mokimba da Praia, which is where we were, and then it leads you to Mokimia and Mweda. The terrorists took place and held of this to disrupt the development that took place around those areas. After capturing this, they tried to fight back 4 times, but they failed. The second group from Afongi continued to Quintunda, Quilamen, Mpangana, Maputo, Namalala, heading to the main tourist camps in the town of Mokibao da Praia on the shores of Indian Ocean. As of July 4th, the troops had taken control of the cities and towns of Palma, Quinonga, Tite, Zambia, Maputo, Nihaka, Dorovuna, Quileman, Njama, Chinda, Mumu, and Awase. The troops from both directions then joined forces, and after 4 days they captured Mokimba da Praia, the main stronghold of the terrorists, a great victory after heavy gunfire that left a number of terrorists wounded and others captured.
Tikaenda barabara ya nani hiyo ya kwenda Palma kuntenga ambush. Sasa tukatenga ambush, wakaja hao majeshi wa kutoka Rwanda.
We went to Palma route to set up an ambush, and that's when the Rwandan security forces came and we fought hard. I took my gun to fight, but no bullet came through, so I reset my gun, and that's when I was shot on my shoulder. The rest took my gun and ran away and left me there.
Wakachukua ile silaha ilikuwa ninatumia mimi, wakaondoka.
So far, on the Rwandan side, only 4 have fallen in the fight against terrorism in the province of Cabo Delgado. Brigadier General Pascal Mohizi emphasizes that the Rwandan army is proud of its dedication in the liberation fight of its African brothers and sisters. We collaborated as Africans, and it is good to note that we are able to help our neighbors, and others should learn from this and help their neighbors for the sake of themselves and others. The heads of state of Rwanda and Mozambique also commended the commitment of the two countries' armed forces and their achievements. During his recent 2-day visit to Cabo Delgado, President Paul KAGAME and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces stressed that the two countries' armed forces cannot allow terror to reign and affect the peace of the people of Delgado.
Masiku mliotembea mchana, jua kali, risasi hapa na pale.
You walked night and day, even in the scorching sun, for days, bullets flying over and people dying around you. We might say that losing a few people is nothing, but in a war, everyone counts. The terrorists have run, but they are somewhere, and we must make sure that they do not come back to destroy the peace of the Mozambicans and the Cabo Delgado citizens.
Maisha ya wana Msumbiji na kwa hii eneo ya Cabo Delgado.
More than 1,000 Rwandan troops and police have been in Cabo Delgado province since July at the request of the Mozambican government and the two countries' security and military agreements.
Now, the Auditor General from Rwanda, Burundi and of Tanzania converged in Kigali to check on the progress made in the realization of the Rusumo Hydro Power Project. Bosco Kwizera and Secretary with more.
For 2 months now, Auditor Generals from the three countries have been auditing Rusumo Hydro Power Project, linking Rwanda, Burundi and the Republic of Tanzania. The essence of the audit is to find out how the execution is being done and whether the scheduled deadline will be met. Rwanda's Auditor General Badi Abraro tells their impression.
I think we can say no. There is a tendency we have already seen that some extension of time of completion, I think, will be required. Therefore, sincerely, 3 months. Mark, we have been there. Yes, we are not engineers, but our expertise as the heads of supreme audit institutions, we have what it takes to say, I think this will be is real or not real. We have been there 2 times, up to yesterday, 1 p.m. So we can say these activities, please, I think 3 months will be next to a miracle to complete.
The three Auditor Generals from three countries have expressed that so far, 57% of the $340 million project has been spent and the project realization has reached 81.4%. The Tanzanian Controller and Auditor General Charles Kichele called for proper financial expenditure to save more funds for the people in three countries.
So 43% is still undisbursed loan or grant amount, which is there available for the project. But we are at 81% physical progress as well as financial progress for the project. What does it mean? It means that the project, the contractor bid low compared to the financing available. So what's our plea? Is that they should control the costs, the project costs, so that if whatever the fund is remained should be utilized in other areas to benefit the people of these three republics.
The three Auditor Generals from three countries have expressed need for the governments in these countries to make close follow-up on this mega venture for effective realization. The Burundian Auditor General, General Kiago, told media that their next step will be to meet their legislature for details. She hailed efforts made to pursue for the funding of the project, which will elevate the standard of living for people dwelling in these three countries. Rusumo Hydropower project was initiated in 2014 and will produce 80 megawatt to be shared amongst the three member countries. Kwizera Bosco reporting.
On behalf of the entire news team that made this news possible, led by my news director, Caritas Suera, cameraman Buddha Tayurga, thank you very much for being part of us. My name is Fiona Mbabazi, and as usual, have yourselves a blessed and enjoy the rest of Furahi Day safely, knowing that COVID-19 is still in the midst of us, but you have a role to play to protect yourself and your loved ones. God bless.